The Apple Watch is a more compelling device than it's ever been before. It comes in at a competitive price point of £269 and it is more feature rich than ever. And in this video we're going to be covering off a couple of things that we absolutely love about it and some of the things that not so much. So welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, we talk about all things gaming and tech related, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our awesome upcoming content. So let's take a deep dive into the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is one of those devices that I've had now since the very original one, the Series 0, shall we call it? And it's only gotten better and better and better with age, although there are definitely a few things out there that absolutely drive me mad about it. So first up, what do I like about the Apple Watch? Love it or hate it, the Apple Watch comes in an iconic design. It's this kind of square blob thing that sits on your wrist, and it's immediately recognizable as an Apple Watch. And personally, I think this is one of the reasons why Apple have kept this design and haven't gone for anything that's rounded or more watch-like. It's so that people look and they know straight away that, hey, that's an Apple Watch. It's so incredibly easy to switch the watch bands on it and just switch them out, so for different occasions you can customize it and just make it look different. And one of the great things is it comes in the two different sizes, so depending on how small or large your wrists are, you'll find one that kind of suits your needs. Throw in the fact that Apple recently made it more accessible by throwing in a £269 model with the Apple Watch SE, well, it's pretty easy to get your hands on at a decent price, and you don't really lose out on too many features. As I said, I've used the Apple Watch for a long time now, and in my history I have used a lot of different smartwatches, from the original Pebble, which was a nifty little device, the Moto 360, and a whole range of different Fitbits. And the Apple has its strengths, but it also has its weaknesses. So fitness-wise, the Apple Watch is one of those devices that just gamifies fitness and makes it quite fun to do. You can have competitions with friends, which is, again, something that really kind of gets you up and going and competing against those different people. And just closing your rings becomes a bit of a, I don't know, an achievement. The way the fitness side of things looks on your screen is very visual, it's very bright, it's colourful. Like I said, it's very gamified. But it also has its cons in the fact that the fitness side of things actually becomes relatively simple and kind of lacking in a lot of aspects. For the general fitness functionality, it does a really good job. It has a whole range of different types of workouts that you're going to do, and I've never really had any issues at all with the Apple Watch missing any of my tracking. It does a really good job of tracking my steps, my movement and my heartbeat, and it just gives me a full picture of my workouts and how I've been doing. So in that respect, it's really, really strong, and it's only going to get stronger with the launch of something like Apple Fitness Plus, which will hopefully be here soon. In my opinion though, the weakness of Apple Watch's fitness is the competition side of it. Coming from a Fitbit, where the competition side of things really drove large groups and stuff like that, the Apple Watch is massively lacking. You can still only compete with one single person at a time, which is just a little bit weird. Now granted, you can have multiple competitions going off, so you could be competing against 5 different friends, but not in a group, and that's where Fitbit really shined. The Fitbit software was just really easy to look at a glance, see a lot of your averages, and just see how your overall fitness picture looked, whereas the Apple Watch is kind of everything dealt with in silos. You have to click onto the individual days to look at your stats, and like I said, there is no group competition, which I hope they fix soon because it was a massive win. In 2020, on the latest Apple Watch OS, we also got sleep tracking, which is, again, coming from Fitbit, where they do a really detailed job of tracking your sleep, Apple's offering just seems bland. There's very little to it. It literally just tells you, this is the time you started sleeping and this is the time you woke up. Good job, you hit your goals. It does have some nice to haves in the fact that you can actually set your bedtime, so once you hit those times, it will put it onto Do Not Disturb and it will stop the screen from coming on, which is pretty handy. But apart from that, it doesn't really offer anything. Yes, you get a little bit of insight into what time you are going to bed and what time you're waking up, so you can kind of track those things. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather see some more detail in there. Fitbit offered all sorts of different sleep measurements, so you could see if you were waking up in the night, you could see what your sleep state was like, you could measure your sleep quality. The Apple Watch doesn't offer any of that. And then throw in the fact that the Apple Watch's battery just isn't great, it's a bit of a recipe for disaster. Since I've started using this to track my sleep, one thing I found is I'm constantly having to do micro charges. So when I'm getting up in the morning to have a shower, putting it on charge. If I'm sat down for a long length of time, I'm having to put it on charge. And that's because the battery life is, at best 2 days if you turn off the cellular. And it's just not great versus something like the Fitbit, which did a much better job at sleep tracking and offers a much better battery life. Now obviously there are reasons for that. This has a bigger, better screen on it. It's capable of doing so much more than my previous Fitbits were. So it's a trade-off I'm willing to make. I just wish that it was actually worth it, and that sleep tracking from Apple was just much better, because at the moment it is massively lacking and it doesn't really give you any insight into your quality of your sleep. So in my opinion, if you're looking at this as a sleep tracker, it's an absolute no. However, the fitness side of it is brilliant if you're just looking to track your own fitness and have competitions on one-on-one with your friends rather than any group stuff. So I mentioned earlier on that the Apple Watch has become even more accessible to people, and we've got a £269 price point, which is absolutely brilliant. And that's something that I really hope that Apple would bring to the table with an Apple Watch SE, and lo and behold, they did. And one of the great things about this is you can now have an Apple Watch and give it to your kids or somebody else in your family who doesn't have an iPhone, and you just do the activation through your phone. Granted, it's not quite as fully fledged as being able to pair this up with something like an Android device or just use it without an iPhone, but it's a step in the right direction. And at this price point, it offers a really nice to have for people with families. So you'll be able to get in contact with your kids wherever they are, be able to track where they are at the time, and just be able to have some of those peace of mind and quality of life improvements by them having something like an Apple Watch. It might be a little bit overkill, but at £269 it's certainly cheaper than buying them the bottom line iPhone SE, and at the end of the day it means they're not constantly getting distracted by the phone. Speaking of distractions on your phone, the Apple Watch really helps me to conserve the battery life of my device, just because I'm constantly checking it on here rather than checking it on my phone. It also really helps in terms of productivity as well, so if I'm working I can quickly at a glance just check my notifications, and if it's something that absolutely needs to be taken care of right there and then I can grab my phone, but if not, it just means I'm not getting quite as distracted. There's also been loads of times where I've just left my phone on charge and been able to actually enjoy some quality time with my kids and my family, rather than constantly having to check your phone and they're getting drawn into something, because even though you can see the things that are going on here, you're not really going to get as, I suppose, drawn in or distracted because the screen is so small, and it does offer that nice to have. It means you can go places and still remain in contact if you need to, and make calls again if you need to, but you can leave your phone behind. From a fitness perspective, that is massively helpful. I have an iPhone 11 Pro Max, and lugging that around if I go for a run or something like that is just not really doable. With this, I can pair up my AirPods, get some music going, and track my fitness and my run all on the same device and not have to worry about it. It's also water resistant as well, so when I get back, I can run it under a tap and just wash some of the ickiness that comes out of me off of it. Obviously, you have the option to take phone calls on this if it's over Bluetooth, so your device is in range, or if you have the cellular version as well. And it can be quite handy, and it does work, but you do need to be in a relatively quiet place. Whenever I'm out and about and I try to take a call on this, it doesn't work, and I always have to use my phone. So that's worthwhile bearing in mind. You know, if you're the kind of person who's hoping to replace your phone with this and just leave it on charge all the time and take most of your calls and everything else on the Apple Watch, that's just not going to happen. It's just not realistic unless you take very few calls and you have to respond to very few texts. Because trust me, inputting text onto this thing, it isn't a great experience. You've got the kind of drawing it out and you have to trace the letters and everything. It doesn't have any small micro keyboard or anything like that. You do have voice dictation, which does work pretty well, but again, it makes it really hard to edit the text as you're trying to send it. So in my opinion, you always end up reverting back to your phone. So this isn't a phone replacement by any means. So all in all, how is the Apple Watch in 2020? And in my opinion, it has just gotten better and better and better, and it is the most compelling smartwatch on the market today. You know, personally, I really like the design, and yes, it might be a bit of an acquired taste, but it looks good, it feels great on the wrist, it never seems to get in the way as long as you wear it right, and it just sits nicely. Being able to switch out the watch bands whenever I want as well is a really nice to have. And the fitness side of things for me, it just keeps me aware of things, it tracks my progress and everything else like that. So it just helps me be a little bit more active. In this day and age, when I'm constantly working from home, it's one of those things that you can often forget about. But having this on there reminds me to, you know, stand up every single hour, to actually get some fitness time in there, to get some active minutes as well. And it's just one of those things that I really enjoy doing because of this. It gamifies it, it makes me want to hit those targets, it makes me want to hit those goals, and like I said, it does a really, really good job of tracking all of that. The Apple Watch offers pretty much something for everybody, and like I said, it now comes in at a really compelling price. And personally, I would much rather go for a more budget-friendly iPhone and pick one of these up alongside that rather than go for a fully fledged iPhone feature-rich thing that just breaks the bank. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend the Apple Watch. If you have an Apple device already and you're already in that Apple ecosystem, it does a great job of just enriching that, being able to pull your notifications through, keep track on your fitness, and just everything else like that. It is a great and nifty little device. So hopefully you've enjoyed that video, and if you have, make sure you hit the subscribe button. This is the first one of our videos in 2020 retrospect, where we'll be doing reviews on all sorts of different tech, gaming, and different services related to that by the end of the year, so that way you can have a full picture of all the different services and our thoughts on those. In the meantime, we'll be back in the future with some more awesome content, so we will see you then. Stay safe and goodbye.